So when doing up a corset, you would put the dress on first by stepping into it, probably without your shoes, and then if you would lift the dress at the front with the petticoat and put the underskirt underneath the dress. Make sure the underskirt is sitting on the waist, and then you're going to do up the internal girdle. So go to the tightest setting on the girdle and just do the girdle up, and make sure the bride is nice and comfortable where the petticoat's sitting naturally on her waist and this is all done up. Next thing is you are going to slightly tighten at the top, not necessarily completely, and make sure that the two tails that you're left with the ribbon are the same length, and you're kind of like holding it like a ponytail. At this point, you are just going to start going one in and then the other one in. So take one end of the ribbon, put it in behind the loop of the next loop down, take it through, and just make sure that it's sitting straight. You're not going to try and tighten it up at all at this point. We're just going to try and put them in nice and gently, just to make sure that they're all sitting well. When you reach the second one, drop them down and start the process again. It's a patient job. You don't really need to tighten at this point at all. You're just trying to put the corsetry in just to make sure it's sitting nicely. Obviously on a brand new dress, this is going to be a really easy thing because the corsetry is nice and taut, and absolutely fresh. Making sure you're always working in the same direction so that your ribbons are always going to lay straight, which is why I tend to say just try and drop your ribbons each time to start again when you use each one. Once you've reached the bottom of where the ribbons are going to go, you can start pulling in. You notice that I haven't done up the zip of the dress yet, because kind of in the majority of cases with a corsetry, where the zip is in the base of the dress, you want this to be done up first before you go further. To do up the top of the dress, make sure your modesty panel is sitting quite straight behind it, although you'll be able to readjust this as you go. Take your fingers to the end where the loops are and just little pulls, little pulls, little pulls, just so that you're not going to contort. You're really just trying to make sure that these bones stay straight all the way down. Make sure your wee panel is straight and go again. Little pulls, little pulls, little pulls, little pulls, and you see how it starts to come in even although you're not completely sure it would do that before. What I would say is that if her back is caught here, what you do is you just go into the dress and push her back to where it came from underneath her arm, so that you don't have a line here because you've unnaturally pulled the body round. So you're just going to try and tighten up your corsetry so that you've got two nice lines finishing up at the bottom, so that what you're left with is a nice isosceles triangle at the base. Once you've got your dress completely done up and you've got your tie done, like so, then you can do up the dress at the bottom, do up your zip, do up the hook, and then you'll notice that there are little poppers to hide the zip inside. This one doesn't quite fit the mannequin, so it's a little bit smaller. Once you get to the top and you've got your poppers done, make sure your bride's nice and comfortable and you don't need to tighten in again. I would say that before you put the bow in it, leave her in it for about 10 minutes, just to make sure that it's nice and settled before you do the final bow. When you're ready to do your final bow, just do a normal bunny bow, like so. Put your fingers into the end of the bunny bow and pull really tight. Then put your fingers on top of the knot, pull the knot in, and do this process 2 or 3 times until you have a really neat, perfect little bow at the back of the dress. So once you're happy with this little bow, just neaten up the bow and then hide the ribbons inside the dress. You might have to undo the gown a little bit to do that, to put the ribbons inside. In some cases, if the ribbons are really long, I would just cut them off to a reasonable length and then do your dress back up. And what you're left with is a beautiful ribbon and loop corset finished with a beautiful bow.